Welcome to Vermonters in Business, where we highlight some of the very best business leaders in our state and the amazing things they're doing in their communities. People of Vermont, welcome to Vermonters in Business, where our mission is to highlight the businesses and business leaders in our state that are doing outstanding work in both their communities and their careers. We've got a great show today. I am your co-host, Drew Kinney. I'm a seventh-generation Vermonter and a business owner in the state. I am very excited about our show today, but first, please join me in welcoming our co-host. He is a serial entrepreneur, a local business enthusiast, and around here we know him as a world-class insurance agent. Travis Spencer, king of the hot take. How we doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to this season. What? 3? Season 4.
Yep.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
Time
and
flies.
guess what? We've got a production assistant now.
I know.
Austin.
That's
Welcome
great.
to the show. Every year we just add a little bit more.
That's
We
right.
started
That's
off with
right.
one little camera and a couple.
We'll get
of
to
mics.
episode 50 this year, hopefully.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
All right. What hot takes you got for us before we jump into the show?
Today I want to talk about drink coolers. We have a great guest today who's going to tell us about a country store, and I reflected on my youth. I grew up in a rural town in Maine, and our local country store. And it's funny. You go into any convenience store now, and it's just walls of drink coolers. When I was a kid, you had Pepsi, Coke, maybe a couple other things,
Sure.
some milk, a small beer cooler. Now you've got 7, 8, 9, 10 coolers, and it's just amazing the hydration addiction we have in this country.
Yep,
so
it's true.
The sodas have stayed the same, and now
Yeah.
you have energy drinks, coffees, everything else. So it's
Yeah.
just drink cooler sizes and how much it's expanded over the years is just
I think
insane.
a core memory of mine is going to the office in South here, and across the street there used to be a general store.
Yep.
It's not there anymore. But you could walk over, and that was when Coca-Cola was doing their red hot summer thing, and you would open it up and you could get a free Coke at the bottom.
Yes.
So like as a kid, I'd be like looking for that free.
Oh,
it was only like
yeah.
$1, but you
Right.
would try to like peek underneath the
Yes.
cap of the thing to see it.
I remember those.
Yeah, that was
the
that
good
was a
old- the good
throwback.
old days.
Pockets?
Yep. I would try to just go like free Coke after free Coke,
Yep.
to see if I never had to pay $1.
Yeah,
But-
I know. It's crazy.
All right, well, let's jump into the show today. Travis, joining us today is Valerie. She is the owner of the Jericho Country Store. How are we doing
Hi,
today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for asking.
Is this your first podcast, or have you been on them before?
I've been on a couple of
Let's
podcasts,
go.
but not for the store.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we always like a seasoned vet on because then
I don't know about that, but
every time you do one, it gets a little easier. But
Yes.
this will be fun. We get to talk about the show today. Before we get too far into what I do, which is the Vermont hot seat questions, and then we'll dive into some of the business stuff. But I noticed that you're originally from New Hampshire, but how did you make your way to Vermont?
So my husband is from Kinney, Vermont,
Okay.
which is in the very northeast corner. And he and I met when we were in Boston, and we had been coming to Vermont every so often. So before Airbnb, okay?
Yeah.
There was a time before Airbnb, you would go online to find a house to rent, and I would see what was for sale. And if it was for sale for longer than 6 months, I'd call him and say, do you want to rent your house out for a couple of weeks?
That's so smart. Yeah.
That's how we came to
Yeah.
Vermont.
Yeah.
So we would rent people's homes that were for sale. And then we kind of fell in love with the area, and we lived in Stowe when we had a bed and breakfast. It was my dream since I was 8 to own a
Yeah.
B&B. And we found one, and my husband had these parameters, and I could match them, and I said, you can't say no to this.
That's awesome.
So we moved from Andover, Mass to Boston, to Stowe, and
Yeah.
Stowe via Hyde Park to Jericho.
Let's go. That's very cool.
The Bob Newhart Show.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
was the Bob Newhart show.
That is so smart. I think back even going on vacations back in the day. I remember my parents would open up something that you would a paper almost of
Yeah.
listings, that you would look through to rent, find what you're going to rent, for the beach or something like that.
There was a book, and we had them at the inn. We kept them for nostalgic purposes, and it was this giant book, probably 3 or 4 inches thick, and you would pick your bed and breakfast from the book.
Wow.
And it would be like, this one has a nicer breakfast than this one. And it would give you little information, and then you would choose the one you wanted to go.
That's awesome. All right, Valerie, well, it's time. So every show we have our guests jump into what we call the Vermont hot seat, where people get a real feel for who you are as a Vermonter based on these questions. So, Valerie, are you ready for the Vermonter hot seat?
I am ready.
All right, let's do this. Pancakes or waffles, what are you having with your Vermont maple syrup?
Oh my God, pancakes, 100%.
Okay. A perfect day for you. Is it a winter day at the mountain or a summer day at the lake?
I would say a winter day cross country skiing.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
With a beer, with a fiddlehead.
All right.
Nice.
I like it.
We'll let Matt know.
Yeah. We had the Catamount guy on.
Catamount Trail Association.
Catamount Trail Association.
Yeah.
So we're not strangers to cross country skiing for sure.
Or a really good blue groomer, man. You
Yep.
cannot be, for me, a blue fun groomer at Bolton Valley.
That's what I tell my everybody I ski with. I'm like, I'm a blues cruiser, and I am proud of it.
Good for you.
I don't need to drop into anything. I don't need to send it down black diamonds. I am happy just to back and forth down the blues.
Woo, yeah, down the mountain. You and I are on the same plot.
All right, it is your birthday dinner, and you can go anywhere in the state. Where are you headed?
My birthday's next week,
Okay.
and we're going to Cafe Monet.
Oh, nice.
In
Yeah.
St. Albans.
In St. Albans. Yeah,
Yes.
newer restaurant. Yeah, and I've heard great things. I haven't been yet.
We went once. It is so good.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a cool little spot. It's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I've definitely been by it and seen it, but I haven't been up to it yet. But I've heard great things. So cool. All right. What is your creamy order and from where?
Well, I'm going to have to order from my store.
Okay. Yeah, we can have home cooking. That's fine. Yeah.
I would say red raspberry and vanilla. That's,
Okay.
Yeah, like
All
a
right.
twist.
I like it. Yeah.
With rainbow sprinkles.
Oh, yes. Got to have
Yes.
sprinkles.
Yeah, we had the Palmer Lane Maple people on, so of course
They
had to-
say
yeah,
maple
same
and they
thing.
say
Yeah. But they get a lot of votes from people too. I think because they got that catchy name.
Yeah.
when
And they got a
people come
mobile
in.
creamy truck. So.
Yeah, and that helps. So, all right. Well, you survived the Vermont hot seat. All right.
thank goodness.
Now it gets easy, right? So we're going to transition over to Travis, and we're going to dive into everything about the Jericho Country Store. What you know best.
Yeah, let's just start off with what the Jericho Country Store is and what you guys offer.
Sure. So it's the oldest, longest running country store in the state of Vermont. It opened in 1807.
Wow.
And back then, they did not have creemees or the deli, but they sold everything that you could possibly need for your home and for your farm because it's in farmland.
Yep.
And over the years, it's been many things, but always a country store. A lot of Vermonters remember Desso's, and they will come in and they'll say, we can't call it the Jericho Country Store, it's still Desso's to us. And I say, I get it.
Yep.
And so we sell everything from not hot dogs, but hamburgers, grill items. We have an amazing deli. We sell creamies. We have gifts. We have toilet paper, and then a lot of drinks.
Yep.
So we sell a lot of beverages. We have gas. It is a little country store in the heart of Jericho, and I think in the heart of Vermont, where it's located. And then we live above it. So there's also hosting an apartment for the family. Yep. But if you go in the basement and you want a little nostalgia, I have every nail that you could possibly ever use still in the basement of the store, and old school toys.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit before we started. Tell us about your journey to getting to be the owner of the store.
Yeah, so like I said, I owned an Inn and Stowe, and I sold it in 2022. My husband and I sold it, actually. And we moved to Hyde Park, and we were in Hyde Park, and I was working for an agency up here, actually, and was like, I can't see myself after owning my own business doing this again. And I wanted to open a store up in Hyde Park, but there was nothing really available. And I'd keep driving by the Jericho Country Store going, wouldn't this be so cool? Like, wouldn't this just be cool to own this store? It's just the perfect little place.
Yep. It is very picturesque.
It is such a picturesque store. And you go in and there's all this nostalgia and all this cool antiques and just like really cool vibe. And on the Google, country stores for sale. And what comes up, the Jericho Country Store must have been on the market for a week.
Wow.
And I called up Linda, the owner, and I was like, is this really a for sale? And she said yes, because the parameters of what they were looking for was someone had to buy it and keep it a store because it is continuously run.
Yeah, right.
And they wanted someone with experience owning an old building, and the inn was very old, and the store is very old, and wanted to be able to work, in an environment where you were, independent. and it kind of like fit everything I was looking for. My husband thought I was absolutely crazy. And here we are.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And so obviously it's been in the community for a long time, but what does the store mean to the community and the community to the store? You know, how's the relationship?
I would say I'm a steward of the store. While I pay the mortgage each month, the store is the community's, and I really kind of bounce off what their needs are and what they're looking for, and I want to keep it super community-based and oriented. And I think being in the village, like we have the library, you have the community center, you have a church, you have the store, and you have a lot of families that live there. So it's really all about being centered around who's coming in and what their needs are. And people will call me, can you get this? Can you bring this in? And usually I can get it within a few days. So I do it for the community. But yeah, you have... I am not a Vermonter. They let me know that.
You have to be like, well, I was on a podcast. So.
Yeah, they don't care. They think it's cool. But so they like knowing, though, that I am keeping it true to its roots and continuing to keep it as a store, for sure.
And how do the seasons fluctuate as far as your business? I mean, obviously there's a lot of locals, but do you get a lot of tourist traffic, people passing through?
Well, we are next to the Fort Ethan Allen, so we're very close to that military base, and with the National Guard there, they're a big component of our store, and they come in quite often. We have the high school that's 1.5 miles down the road. You have the locals that live within the area, and then you have the kids that come in, like from the high school and the middle school. And tourism, we are cyclical, as a lot of places here in Vermont. We don't necessarily follow the same cycle like Burlington versus like Manchester, right? So we're still in a small community base. There's no public transportation near us. So people are driving by the store, and they're either using us to get as a cut through to 15 or to the 80 or to 89. So I would say our summer is the busiest from mid-May through the mid-October. We slow down similarly, in stick season, and then we pick back up for Christmas. We have some business in the winter with us being so close to Smugs.
Right.
And then mostly it's just people in the area. So, yeah.
And how do you stay competitive? There's obviously the local regional chains for convenience stores, and then, people like yourself. So how do you stay competitive with those larger operations?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
We are all fighting to have profit margins that make sense.
Right.
We're all fighting with costs going up and rising. So, I try to have the basics, like we have milk and eggs and toilet paper and bread and stuff that people need, and then we have one heck of a candy counter. And everyone loves candy. And our beer and our wine selection. So when I took over, we took our wine selection and we focused more on natural wines. So you can get wines that you don't necessarily need to drive to Essex for. It's not stuff that you would find at the grocery store. We have a phenomenal beer selection that competes with a big chain, that can bring in a lot of different options. We can work with little smaller breweries too if there's something special coming out. And then we have our deli, and our deli is sort of the heart of the operation. And we have these phenomenal sandwiches that, you just can't get anywhere in that area. There is no place to get a deli sandwich Monday through Friday. And we have breakfast.
Nice.
So, and the grill. So, and I think our burgers are it's the same burger meat you would get at other, I'm not going to name restaurants, but other restaurants, and it's usually just a little bit cheaper because it's not a sit down.
Well, that leads me into one of my questions I had is if someone's just driving through and stops in, what's the one item they need to get there?
Yeah.
They probably, I would say, get a deli sandwich and a creemee.
All right.
Yeah.
So deli sandwiches are the things.
Yeah, and I'd say we moved our candy counter right out front, so people come in and they're like, oh my God, that's nostalgic. Like, give me a bag of candy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges you see? I mean, obviously staying competitive with, other stores, but what are some of the other challenges that you face with running the business?
You're always looking at, labor.
Yep.
You're always wondering, do I have too much staff? Do I have too little staff? And then finding quality people. Again, I'm not on any public transportation, so you need a car to come to work each day.
Yep.
And that's something I'm facing right now, is not being able to find staff. I mean, staffing is probably the biggest challenge that we have. We have a lot of kids. We are the first job for a lot of 15 and 16-year-olds. And my one question when I interview them is, do you know how to hold a broom? And have you ever answered a telephone before? And I'd say 50-50 on both. Like, you would be surprised. And it's like you were training kids how to be grown-up human beings. And that can then, like, go out into the world. And so you have to have a lot of patience. So challenges, I would say staffing. I don't worry about, like, I'm not worried about them stealing things. It's just getting people to be able to work.
Yeah.
And then I would say just prices of goods.
Right.
Like, the cost of doing business now has gotten really high. And I'm competing with, places in Williston that are charging, they're paying $20 an hour versus what I can pay.
Right.
And their foot traffic is higher, so they can cover those costs.
Yep. Do you have a self-checkout?
No.
Right. Good.
It would be walking out the door and self-checkout.
I was talking earlier. I had a bad self-checkout experience at the store, not to be named down the road, the other day, and it's just like it's now all self-checkout. But you're just standing there, and there's one person working, and they still can't get through the process of helping you when you're self-checking out. So I'm like, what's the point at this point?
I mean, there's a store down the road in which you self-checkout, and it yells at you every time.
Yep, it's true. I'm curious, you mentioned that you guys have gas.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into gas pricing because I think that's too much of a thing to tackle. But what was that experience like for you when you first bought the store, of being like, how do I manage gas pumps?
You're bringing up a source.
Yeah, I was just thinking through my head. I was like, there's a lot of transitions between the in and stow,
yeah,
and like some of the having to get like food and goods and things like that.
Sure.
But gas is a whole wild card.
Gas is still something. Like right now, to be transparent, I don't have my gas pump running because I have to pay for gas up front,
right?
And it can be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I'm waiting, it's a game of like figuring all these different things out. The amount of training you have to go through, and then the daily process of just like what gas means.
Right.
Our pumps are very old. I think they're like 45 years old, and then, or maybe older. And then the gas tanks are older. Mm-hmm. So every year they're tested, and we're determining like how old are they until we say we're not going to have them anymore. Because you have all of these different issues that can come up with gas seeping, if inner tanks versus outer tanks aren't, running well, or if they're breaking down and leaking, and then you have issues with it going into the ground.
Of course,
So it's like 40 or 60 hours of training that I had to do before I could.
Yeah.
And then I was certified, and then you have to track and monitor.
Yep.
And bigger places have all of that electronic,
right.
But being so old, everything is manual. And if a part breaks on one of my gas pumps, I have a guy, and because we all have guys, and my guy's like, I got a guy, I gotta go see if he has something for that, because sometimes we can't get those parts because the systems are so old.
Yeah.
So you could envision gas going away at some point.
At some point, not right now, but I can say within the next 5 years, the gas will probably be gone, because the pump, the gas tanks on average are only supposed to last between 30 and 40 years, and they're over that at this point. So.
Yeah. Was there, did you have some guidance through that transition period, or were you just like, good luck, when
you start a new job, it's either sink or swim. I had guidance, but it was a lot of notes, and like I have to go back and go through it. And even after 2 years, gas is hard.
Super interesting. I was very curious. Yeah.
Yeah, gas is one of these things. It's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like, if I don't have it, people won't come in because they could go to another location and get gas.
Right.
But if I have it, then I'm constantly worried and monitoring it. So.
And I also feel like, like right now, I mean, the gas price is high. So if you buy it and then, the price drops, like you could be on, caught with a bad deal,
Yes, and that's really hard. You have to kind of gauge like what's more important. I haven't bought gas in a couple of weeks, but you get notified every time gas prices change, and we pay 20 cents more per like 15 to 20% more per gallon, because I don't buy the volume that larger retailers do.
Right.
So my gas is always 20 to 30 cents more per gallon.
Yeah, it almost feels like you need to be moving a lot of gas for it to
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
We don't move enough.
Yep.
Well, and I think that's the thing the consumer doesn't understand. I think some of us who know a little bit more about certain industries do, but you're paying up front. So that's why, because people are always like, well, they never go down as fast as they go up. But it's like, but you need to get money to pay for the next truckload to come in. So it's not.
And we're in the slowest time of the year right now. So we're just like figuring out what's most important when running a small business like this. And I have to kind of balance between certain things that make more sense.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned a couple. We'll transition off the gas, because I know that's not. I just couldn't help myself.
Gas talk.
What I'm curious. You mentioned kind of moving the candy up front, and to trying to draw on some of that old towny feel.
Sure.
When you first bought the place, what other sort of changes did you kind of make from what was there?
It's an old store. Any old building gets dusty. And we had a lot of stuff in the store. I kind of wanted to understand. So for the first 6 months, I just ran it as is. Yeah. And learned what was selling, what didn't sell, what could we move out, what could we get rid of, what could we expand on. And I closed down for a week in November of 2024, and I just cleaned the store, and then I redid the walls, and I painted. And I took things down, and it's so funny. As I say, I'm a steward of the store, so the community is like, you took down some stuff?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Where is it?
The stuff is upstairs. It's getting cleaned. I'm wiping it all down. Okay, well, that's ours. I'm like, I know it's yours. I just need to clean it and put it back. And so once the store was back and going, people felt much safer and calmer knowing that I hadn't destroyed something so fantastic as all of the antiques that are within the store. So I cleaned. I was going to do the floors, and then I was like, gangbusters, stop, do not touch those floors. So I just linseed oil them. I didn't sand them or anything. We moved around. We made the store a little bit more like a grocery store setup with some of the racks and things that we bought. And I have projects for this year coming up, but I painted the exterior of the store last year, so that was a big one. Just gave it fresh coat, really kind of made it pop a little bit in the center. So it was mostly cosmetic stuff and just changing things around.
Sure.
And the locals had a really hard time with the change.
Some felt more than the others. Yeah. But I got pretty good feedback. Nice. I would say it's been good feedback. You will have a couple of people come in and just say, this isn't my store anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's still here.
Yeah. Do you think, though, and that's a funny point. I think it kind of goes down the road about, just people understanding what's involved with running a business.
Right.
But do you think there's, on some level, the understanding it's like this potentially could go away if we don't do things the right way? So you might have to adapt a little bit, or you might not have a store.
Well, the biggest change, and I didn't mention this, was the post office went away.
Right.
So when the post office left in July of 2024, I had nothing to do with it, but that was a huge shift, and it really, it was a front porch forum.
Yeah.
There was a lot of controversy and a lot of talk, and I felt so bad. There was nothing I could do about the post office going away, and that hurt business. And I still kind of, make people aware, hey, you've got to come into the store. You need to come and support the store if you want the store to succeed, because what the store was bought for 25 years ago is not what is currently, being paid for now. So we have to be really mindful, if you have to make a purchase, come in and see if we have it first, or call and ask, because we want to help you, and I want to make sure that you're getting what you need. But I think about that quite often. Yeah,
and that's hard to get across to the consumer sometimes.
Sometimes, yes, and I'm pretty point blunt. I'm like, you don't come in, I don't know if
we might not be here.
Come back, and in Underhill there was a general store, and now it's apartments. Yeah. And then across the street, he has his store, but he's there all day, every day. So the store is such a big part of the community, but it's it's at a point where now it's like I'm in year 2, like let's keep moving along.
Yeah. So one of the questions I always love to ask, because kind of hindsight's 2020, and we have lots of business owners, and we might have somebody
Sure.
out there that's listening that is thinking of getting into the general store game. What advice would you give yourself, back when you first bought the store now?
Oh God, no.
Is there anything you would have done different along the way?
I mean, like, I think listening to your staff and what their needs are, like really understanding how they feel and what they could do better. And also, like, we put so much pressure on ourselves as small business owners that it's okay to sometimes just, like, sit down and take a step back and be like,
sure.
hey. So, I mean, there was a lot of things I would have said to my former self at the inn, but at the store, I'm still kind of new at it. Like, maybe in 5 years, I would think differently. But maybe, like, it's okay if not everyone is happy with what you're doing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
You got to just stay focused and, like, your path.
Right. How many employees at the store?
Ranges anywhere between 17 to 25.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I employ, like, we have a lot of part-timers. We have 4 full-time employees. And then we have a lot of kids. I have some moms. I have some retired folk that work for me. I mean, like, it's an array between 15 years old and my retired COO of a bank.
Yeah.
And she keeps those kids on track. I will like that. And then you have everything in between.
Yep.
So I have one employee who's been with the store for, I think this is his 10th year. He's my right-hand man. He's super helpful. He's awesome. He runs our grill. And then I have one girl who's been with the store, but her parents also owned a country store in Huntington.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, and the people that I get are usually in some format or another, like they've owned or worked at a store like this.
Nice.
So
what's the crystal ball look, 5 years down the road? You said 5 years. What do you, any vision or change for the store, or just kind of status quo, move forward?
I think keeping it moving and grooving, hopefully, the climate of the world will be a little bit more positive. I kind of got thrown into the deep end with all of that.
Sure.
I think, like, I'm focusing on doing more community-based stuff. Like, we do a monthly wine tasting now. We're trying to do some stuff out in the green, in the center, to, like, bring the community at the store. Last year we hosted our first Jericho Town Day in the center, so more of that stuff. Expanding a little bit, like seeing how we can expand. We want to get into prepared dinners. We changed out our ovens, so instead of one pizza oven, we have actual ovens now and burners and things in the kitchen. So we definitely do more catering.
Yep.
I would like not to live at the store in the next 5 years, so
That's a good vision.
currently living there now. In 5 years, my daughter will be graduating high school, so it's like just, I'd like to keep the store moving. I don't want to be the one that says I have to close the store. You never want to be that one.
No.
So
That's a lot of pressure.
That's
It is.
so much pressure. Talk about the pressure. You want to be the one that says you've kept it going in the right direction.
Yep. Nice.
When was your last vacation? And if it was a while, you should schedule one.
I'm going away April break.
All right, nice.
Yes,
Let's go.
Yes. I went, last year I did it. Owning the inn, you never took time off.
Sure, yeah.
And so my thing was, I'm not going to burn myself the way that I did with that business. So I'm a little bit kinder to myself with time.
Good.
Nice. I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, anything we missed that you want to touch on?
Just keep visiting your little stores. Keep visiting your general stores. And make sure those are a part of some sort of routine. It doesn't have to be daily, but at least weekly.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
So.
Well, we do have a question for you. When we're trying to ramp up how we kind of close the show. A lot of times we seek guests out there, but is there anybody that that we should have on our show?
I think you should have the folks from Ale and Bean on.
Okay.
I think they would be an awesome fit. Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they co-run both the coffee and the beer side of of
Nice.
a little location, and they have a pretty good following in Jericho.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
do.
we'll send them an invite, see if they want to come on down.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
One of these times we got to start doing some shows at like a location,
Yes.
That would be a lot
Go
of fun.
remote.
Yeah.
Take it.
Oh,
Take it on the road.
Yeah.
Take it on
Everything's
the
mobile.
road.
Buy a
But-
transit van. Just go.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been another episode of Vermonters in Business. Valerie, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
so
And everybody
much,
get out there
guys.
and check out the Jericho Country Store.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
That was